Well, chalk up another bank failure to the economic downturn. Federal regulators shutting down Silver Falls Bank. It's in Silverton, Oregon. This is the 14th federally insured institution to fail just this year. The bank failure coming on the heels of a brutal week on Wall Street, with the Dow finishing at a 6-year low. Can we expect more banks to close their doors? How about your bank? Could it get any uglier on Wall Street? Let's ask Chester Elton, a business consultant and author of The Carrot Principle. Good to have you with us, Chester.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with this bank, the Silver Falls Bank, the 14th to fail. Here's my question. I want to make sure the American people aren't being scammed. Is this a true failure, or is it a restructuring? In other words, are they going to open up next week, same location, different name?
Well, I think, in fact, they are. You know, the smaller banks, the larger banks will take advantage of that. They'll open more branches. They'll assume that debt. And it's not that big a deal for them to assume that, you know, a few $1 million, and they get into those markets. The thing I worry about more than anything is not only the confidence of the depositors in these smaller banks, but the employees in the smaller banks that are now, you know, changing from sign to sign, banks merging. What about, you know, the employees as well? How do they continue to come to work and be engaged and give the kind of service and the confidence to the depositors that is so necessary in this economic climate?
Well, Chester, that's a problem at the small banks, and plenty of employees are losing their jobs at the big banks. And fortunately, there's more protection for your money in an account. The FDIC insurance now has been raised, and if you're lucky enough to have more than $100,000, you may be okay. But this bank in particular, just as an example, had more than $200 million in assets and deposits. How does a bank like that fail?
Well, you know, this brings up to your other point about, do we need more regulation? Do we need more oversight? You know, they've got assets in there, and, you know, most people, when they put their money in the bank, they know that they're not going to get, you know, 10 or 15% increase on that. They're just saying, hey, look, if I put my money in the bank, just don't lose it, okay? So I'm with you. You know, there's assets there. There needs to be more oversight. There needs to be more regulation. I don't think we're to the point where we need a national bank with that kind of intervention, but I do think we need to have regulators that are looking more at the human aspect of what's going on. Let's think more about the depositors. Let's think more about the employees in the structure, because we can't just do a little mechanical fix and make it all better. We've got to put the human face on this banking industry and get down to what people's needs really are.
Well, I think maybe it's just too easy for these banks to declare they're failing if they have that. I don't know what their debt is, but if they have more than $200 million in assets, I would hate to think that they could just restructure and rename and could have stayed in business, even if it's just because of a convenience in a small town that's where their bank is, and they might have to go further. My question now is, going forward, nationalizing banks. A lot of people may hear that term over the next couple of days. What does it mean, and is it good for us or bad for us, and why?
Well, when you nationalize the bank, you're really taking that out of the free market system, you know, and the competition. You've got so much oversight. It's very safe, obviously, because then, you know, with the government behind everything, you're not going to lose any deposits. But I think it takes away some of the competitive. I think with the American system and the American way of life and competition, that's a little premature right now. I think what people are looking for is a little more oversight. I don't think they're looking for the national bank intervention, where now government really does control so much of your life that you don't have choices when it comes to making investments and deposits. I think that's premature.
Chester, let's talk about something that's out of control, the Dow. You know, I said like 6 months ago I could see 6,500. I hope we don't go there, but it is possible. So here's my question for you. Let's give people news they can use. If you got an investment in the market that's down 20 to 40%, do you stay where you are and possibly lose 60% of the value, or do you take it out and be happy with 3% in a CD in a bank that hopefully stays in business? What do you do?
You know, I'm sorry to laugh there, but I have this conversation with my wife all the time. Do we pull it out? Do we leave it in? You know, and my friends, I think we're pretty close, if not to the bottom of that. And I think that what you've got to do is look opportunistically. I think you've got to keep buying. I keep saying, hey, we keep investing because now we're buying low. Sooner or later, it'll come back. I think we're pretty close to the bottom. What I would do is I would take a look at companies that really have focused on what's important. And they've used their employees employees in particular, I always come back to this human aspect of business. They've looked to their employees as assets, not cost centers. And I want to give you a couple of examples of areas where there are industries where, the leadership has really stepped up. Pepsi Bottling Group went to their employees and said, let's find cost savings to preserve jobs. Let's get everybody focused on how we can keep our company going, not just in the ivory tower, but right down to manufacturing. Let's take 2 threads off the bottle and save a few $100,000, which, by the way, will save your coworker's job.
Yeah, we all want to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm sadly out of town, but you're a great guest, and the carrot principle, and I love the color-coordinated carrot-colored tie. Very nice, very classy. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Come on back, okay?
I will.
Okay.